Hey yo, hey yo.
What up? Welcome back to Little in the Middle. I hope everybody had a great week. It's pretty warm in the city today. It's feeling really nice. This is not necessarily an Easter episode, but I am wearing bunny ears right now. I wanted to feel a little festive. I know we have Easter coming up as our next holiday. I really don't celebrate Easter. I just think Easter is kind of cute. So you have this little basket with a little chicken on the bottom, and like this little one's like laying eggs. Or no, this one's hatching. And then there's two little eggs that are still waiting to be hatched. And I got some plastic Easter eggs over here, which you can't see on the screen unless I'm holding it up. But taking these little Easter eggs out of the package reminded me when I was in elementary school. I think it was fourth grade. And my teacher, I think her name was Mrs. Thompson. She had a twin. Her twin would once in a while come in to visit us. And I remember it was around Easter, and her sister brought in a couple Easter eggs in like a plastic grocery bag. And I remember she gave each of us one Easter egg. And she told us to be very careful because I think she put a little bit of water in it. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, okay. She told us to wait. She wanted all of us to open the egg at the same time. So we're all waiting to get our Easter egg. And she tells us, okay, you guys can open your Easter eggs now. And we opened the Easter egg, and there was little worms in our Easter egg. And I remember Mrs. Thompson was like, what are you doing? Why are you, like, she was trying to keep her cool, but like she kind of thought it was funny at the same time. She's like, what are you doing bringing worms for my kids in a little Easter egg? So I know you're probably wondering like if these stories are even real and like how I even remember certain things. I have the most stupidest memories, like very detailed. There's certain things I'm like, why do I even remember this? Why do I even have this in my memory bank? And I have no fucking idea how I remember certain things. And I remember things from when I was in like daycare and kindergarten, first grade. I even remember when I was under 5. I have no idea how old I was, but I remember walking around in a big empty house. Not necessarily empty, but it was just big. It was very spacious and more spacious than what I was used to. I was born in Brooklyn, and I think when I was 2 or 3 years old, I want to say my parents, but I think my dad had a lot of say in this, not necessarily my mom. My mom is a very timid lady. She was very shy. She didn't really speak much. So I know my dad had all the say in this. But when I was 2 or 3 years old, we moved to New Jersey. We didn't move to like Jersey City. We didn't move North Jersey. No, we moved South Jersey, almost 2 hours away from New York City. We moved closer to Philadelphia, just for a frame of reference, because I know a lot of people don't know, or maybe they do know because Camden has a bad reputation, but I was raised in Camden. I have no idea why we moved to Camden, and I am thinking it was mostly because I had one uncle that had just bought a house. Houses were really cheap down there. Crime was pretty bad. Schools weren't that great. At the time, in the 90s, there wasn't that many Mexicans. And I know, like, when I talk about my upbringing, and I tell people there weren't any Mexicans growing up where I'm from, they're kind of confused. Like, what the fuck you mean there wasn't any Mexicans when you grew up? Like, that makes no fucking sense. I'm like, yeah. I felt like I was always the only Mexican kid, the only Mexican female, or from what I remember, I felt like I was the only cool, funny Mexican one. And I felt like I always had to fit in because not only was I Mexican, but I was fat, what I would consider fat. I was chubby. I had chubby cheeks. I had a belly. I was short. I didn't look like the kids who I grew up with because it was predominantly Black and Puerto Rican. And if you see any white people in Camden, like, they are not up to any good, okay? They're either crackheads, they're drug addicts, they're homeless. You don't see white people living in Camden. They have no reason to be in Camden. Growing up, I just did not fit in at all. And it was kind of tough growing up. And I actually got a message from, he was a friend from high school. We went to Leap Academy in Camden. And this was a charter school, but it was a public school. And we had uniforms, strict uniforms. At the time, females had to wear skirts. And even in the dead of winter, we had to wear skirts. And now, fucking everybody can wear pants, and whoever wants to wear skirts can wear skirts now. But when I was in high school, it was very strict. So I had to wear stockings with black shoes, navy blue skirt, a white button-up, a burgundy vest with the school name on it, you know, the female ties. And then we had to wear a blue blazer. Okay, so it was a pretty good school. I couldn't keep up. I didn't drop out. I left that school to go to a bad school. But that's another story for another time. So my friend, who he's known as Pop Culture on social media, he's an artist, producer, writer. He's the founder of the Don't Hurt Yourself Challenge. You can look that up and you'll see all the videos of, it's just him playing his song on top of videos where people do stupid things and like they get hurt, and it's funny. It's a funny little hashtag that you can follow. But he reached out to me last week, and I'm not going to get into detail what he said, but he said you don't see too many people do it where we're from. And because my upbringing was so rough in so many aspects, both at home, my social life in school, the friends that I had outside of school, everything was just rough for me. And I don't want people to feel bad for me. I'm just telling my point of view. I'm just giving you my experience. I've always resented my parents for leaving the city where all my family's from and then moving to Camden, New Jersey, where I had nobody. I had no family. My friends weren't really my friends. So to be able to still keep in contact with some people who I went to Leap Academy with, they will forever have a place in my heart because they're just genuinely good-hearted people who want to progress and move on with their life, despite the fact that we came from Camden, New Jersey, where things are tough and not that many people have success stories there. It's a place where, I know this sounds really cliche and stupid, but you either die or you go to jail. Or maybe it's not those two extremes. Maybe you just settle and become a townie. You just make up excuses for yourself and you don't do anything with your life. And I don't mean to say this to attack anybody specifically. I'm just going back to the friendships that I had with certain females, even ex-boyfriends, like the people who I used to hang out with, like that they were a bad group. I can kind of see what their life is like on Facebook, which I don't go on there at all because it just brings back a lot of bad memories with like seeing how some people are doing. But Camden is not a great place to raise kids. When I was growing up, I felt really lonely. And I feel like I didn't have anybody who I can relate to. I've always resented the fact that we left the city to go to Camden. And I've always, since I was a little girl, I've always wanted to come back to the city. And when I say I've had memories of when I was under 5 years old in a house, a big house, just roaming around, I imagine that's me when we had just moved to Camden, New Jersey, in our home. That was a big home if you compare it to the apartments in the city. And I remember just like roaming around the house. Nothing specific, just remember me being alone, just roaming around a big house that didn't ever feel like a home to me. Growing up, when I left Camden and I moved over to Pennsauken, or like when I moved to New York and people ask where I'm from, and then I tell them, like their perspective of me changed like this. And I really didn't like that effect that I had on people. I didn't like that title that I had being from Camden, New Jersey. So I've always tried to hide the fact that I was raised in Camden. And just to have that negative perspective of me without getting to know me, just me saying where I'm from, I didn't like that. And I've always tried to repress that. And when my friend Pop Culture reached out to me and said, don't see too many people do it where we're from, it's like I can't deny the fact that I'm from Camden. I grew up in Camden from the time I was 2 or 3 years old till about 16. So Camden made me. I am one of the Camden kids. And I need to change my perspective on Camden, because when I look at my friends and the people who I still have communication with, it's like, fuck, like, we were raised in Camden. And my friends are not horrible people. My friends are creative, successful, funny, outgoing. They're the kind of people that like to take risks. And that makes me proud to be from Camden. So anyway, back to this Easter theme. Oh, so I also got some Girl Scout cookies in this week. I'm actually shocked that there's still Girl Scouts still selling cookies. 2023. I was a Girl Scout when I was in elementary school. I started off as a brownie, and then I moved up to junior Girl Scout, and I don't think I have a picture of me in my brownie uniform, but I do have a picture of me in my junior Girl Scout uniform, and I'm actually in a bus. My Girl Scout troop was heading to New York to go see the Statue of Liberty. So we had a little Girl Scout trip, and you could see the picture that I'm a chubby little kid. I got some Thin Mints. I like to put these in the freezer. I'm sorry if you hear me chewing, but I remember these cookies were a lot bigger. And also I remember when I was selling Girl Scout cookies, Girl Scout cookie season was lit. They told us not to go alone. They told us we had to go to a parent, but preferably don't go knocking door to door. for your safety, because there was a lot of crazy shit happening in Camden when I was little. When I was a Girl Scout, and I was the worst cookie sales rep. Like, I would buy a shit ton of cookies, but it was for me to keep in the house. It wasn't even to sell. It was just for me to eat. So most of my sales came from our household because I was a fat fuck. I remember I was selling Girl Scout cookies to my friend's mom, and I really wanted to try these lemon cookies. And I was like, oh shit, I really want that cookie. But I didn't want to buy the whole box in case I didn't like it, and I didn't want it to go to waste. So I only wanted one cookie, maybe two. And so my girlfriend's mom bought a couple boxes of cookies from me. And then when the day came that the cookies arrived, and I told my friend, hey, do you mind if I take one or two cookies from this box because I really want to try them? And this is like little kid logic, right? Because you don't really think about the consequences. Like, I'm the fucking sales rep. Why did I think it was okay to take one or two cookies from my friend's mom's order? Like, if some little fucking kid took one or two cookies from my Girl Scout box that I ordered, I would be fucking fuming. When her mom finally came home and I heard about this, like maybe the next day or a few days later, and she said, I'm never buying cookies from you ever again because you took some cookies from the box that I gave you money for. And I wasn't even mad at that. I was so embarrassed when I was a kid. How fucking dare me? How dare me? Why didn't I even think that was okay to do? But that should have been an indication that I was going to be a greedy fuck growing up. I'm going to try the next cookie. Samoa's. This is like a coconut chocolate caramel cookie. Crisp cookies with caramel, coconut, and dark chocolatey strips. Fuck yeah. I'm going to cut out a lot of the chewing because I want to respect the people who can't stand the sound of chewing, like myself. It's a syndrome known as misophonia, when you can't stand the sound of chewing or crunching or like swallowing, like the slurps. I didn't realize this was a thing until I was in my late 20s. And like, it made a lot of sense now because when I was little, like my mom, my little brother, oh, actually, no, this was like before my little brother was even born. My little brother was born when I was 8. So I was younger than 8 or about 8. And even after that, me and my mom would have dinner and it would be dead silent. And there wouldn't be any TV noise in the back. And I fucking hated that. Or when there was no music in the background and I just hear the sound of my mom chewing. There would be times where I would be eating and I couldn't stand the sound of the chewing, that I would just... I can't fucking eat now. I can't fucking eat now because the fucking sound of the chewing is really... I don't know, it's like making me... like my blood is boiling right now. Like it's fucking grinding my gears right now. Like I'm clenching my teeth and both of my little kid fists are balled up. And I couldn't understand why I hated my mom's chewing. And at the time I'm like, do I really hate my mom that much? Like I can't stand the sound of her chewing. Not only is it obnoxious and annoying for the people who have this syndrome or whatever you call it, it almost exaggerates, or like it multiplies, it intensifies. So it's a lot louder and a lot more annoying than the normal person would think that regular chewing would be. And if my mom made soup, you better fucking forget it. I would be in such a pissy mood that I don't think I would finish my food because I could not stand the sound of like slurping. But there's times where if I'm eating alone, I have to put something on because there will be times where I can't stand the sound of my own chewing or my own slurping. Oh, another funny Girl Scout story that I had. I would always go to Girl Scout camp in the summertime. And summer camp would be a week long. I was, I think, 8 years old, 8 to 11. Yeah, I think I went to Girl Scout camp for like a good 3 or 4 years. But I remember one year I missed out because the previous summer I was using one of the porta potties. The lock wasn't really working. And so I remember this girl, I know she knew that I was in there. And so because we were in camp, we had to wear our bathing suits under our clothing. So I had a one piece. So I was pretty much naked every time I had to use the bathroom. And so she comes in and opens the door. And I was devastated. I was so fucking embarrassed. And also the fact that I was chubby and I had like little kid nipples, like, oh, that's so disgusting. But I was not, I was like a big round butterball. Like all the fucking girls were skinny, okay? Like growing up, if you were skinny, you were the shit. And I was far from skinny, so I was picked on a lot. And I remember she opened the fucking door. I started crying because I was so embarrassed. And I put my bathing suit back on and then I walked out like just so embarrassed and so ashamed that this fucking skinny bitch like saw me like naked. And I don't know, it was just like certain like that's the kind of shit that I remember still. And because I'm from Camden, like our school gave our Girl Scout troop drawstring Nike bags. And I remember this girl was like, yeah, like, why are you guys all wearing those bags? Like, are you all from the same school? I'm like, yeah. She was like, oh, cool. What school are you guys from? I'm like, oh, we're from Kramer School. That's in Camden. And she was like, oh, Camden? Well, you don't act like you're from Camden. You don't seem like you're from Camden, because I used to rock Limited 2. I don't know if anybody remembers Limited 2 clothing, like in the 90s, like early 2000s. Limited 2 was the fucking shit, okay? Limited 2 was for the little rich kids. And I used to buy my Limited 2 clothing like at Ross or Marshall's. Like, it was on sale. It was discounted. And we never paid full price for fucking Limited 2 because we didn't have that kind of money. And because I would wear Limited 2, they'd be like, you don't look like you're from Camden. You don't act like you're from Camden. And I was like, well, what the fuck? What does that look like? Growing up, there was racism everywhere. There was racism, prejudice against myself because I wasn't black and I wasn't Puerto Rican. And then when I went to this fucking Girl Scout camp, there was racism because I was affiliated with Camden kids. And it's like, come on, like, I don't fucking fit in anywhere. There was a couple girls that like really stood out to me. Like, I remember this one girl, her name was Hannah. She was a brunette, she was skinny, she was like athletic, and I'm pretty sure she's lesbian. And I don't know, I think I had like a little crush on her when I was a kid. I was like, oh my god, her name's Hannah. And I don't know why I looked up to her for some reason. She had glasses. And there were some girls, like going to Girl Scout camp was almost like a culture shock because I've never been around so many white people. Like, I remember this other girl, her name was Erin, and she really liked monkeys, and she would always wear like a monkey shirt, and she had like short brunette hair. And I remember one of the Girl Scout counselors were like asking questions, and she'd be like, yeah, my dad's a lawyer. And then the Girl Scout counselors would be like, oh, really? Oh, you guys must have a nice house. How many rooms do you guys have? You know, and to her, it was like nothing. Like, no, it's okay. Like, we're all right. She wasn't like, yeah, we got a fucking ton of money. We had one overnight stay, which was like the last day of Girl Scout camp. I remember these girls were complaining because the counselors made us tidy up our cabin because like there was like cobwebs and because we're in the fucking woods, so there's like dirt and twigs on the fucking floor, and we had to tidy up our room. And I remember a couple girls were like, we didn't come to Girl Scout camp to clean. We didn't come here to do chores. Like, I'm going to call my mom. I'm going to call my parents. They're like, they're making us wash dishes. And I remember the counselors were like, well, this is your space right now. So you got to tidy up. Like, we're not making you do anything that's out of the norm. Like, you got to clean up after yourselves. Like, we're getting you ready for when you grow up. Sometimes I think, as much as I hated my childhood, I am grateful that I grew up the way I did, because a lot of things, like common sense now is like out the fucking window. And like to be self-sufficient and to not rely on anybody, and not even your own parents, like to be independent. Like, I don't think that I would have grown up with anger issues. I don't think I would have needed that much therapy. I've done a lot of therapy, and a lot of things that I'll bring up, I'm not looking for anybody to feel sorry for me. These are just my stories, my experiences, and I'm kind of hoping that any of this will relate to anybody. And I don't really think this is a funny episode. I do have some missed connections, and I have a Dear Abby that I wanted to go over. Oh, but before that, since this is an Easter episode, is anybody doing anything fun this Easter? What do people do for Easter? I feel like Easter is more of a Catholic thing. You go to church more often around this time because of Ash Wednesday and Palm Sunday and Good Friday and Easter Sunday. And because I grew up Catholic, I was at church all the time around this time of the year. And because of where I'm from, I feel like church I never really liked church, because going to church, it almost felt like a runway. Like, it was just a place for people to judge what you're wearing, people to judge you and your family, people just like talk shit about you as like you're going up for confirmation and you're going to get the bread, the body of Christ, and the wine, the blood of Christ. And while you're there, you're just sipping on other people's germs. The father he'll just like wipe the lips off of the previous person, and I don't know, I just always thought that was kind of nasty. But I didn't like church for that reason. Like, people just go there just to judge, right? And I feel like a lot of people who are church goers at the church that I went to, it's not everybody, but I just feel like everybody just talks shit. Like, it's so, they're just hypocrites, right? I don't care what anybody does. Like, I just mind my own business. You do you. But growing up, that was not the case. Like, I remember like my friend, she was a real slut, and she was sleeping around a lot. Okay. And because she was my only friend, she was my only girlfriend, I felt like I had to hang on to that relationship. I held on to that relationship a lot longer than I should have. I was associated with a lot of her sluttiness. I'm like, I'm not that same person. I mean, that's for another time too. But I was not that much of a slut as she was, okay? And I'm not even going to mention her name. And what was I going to say? What was the point of all this? So I think about Easter now as, it's like springtime. The flowers are starting to grow. They're starting to sprout. The leaves are starting to grow and they're starting to turn green. Anyway, enough about that. Okay, I wanted to bring up this Dear Abby article because we were talking about sluts. Title is Woman Destroys Marriage and Attempts to Move On. Dear Abby, my daughter Maddie, 34, just left what I thought was a great marriage. After only 5 years, she cheated on her husband. After only 5 years. Yo, people cheat 2 weeks in, okay? So 5 years is not bad. That you know of. 5 years later. She cheated on her husband, Glenn. Their 6-year-old son is crushed. I know there are two sides to every story, but our entire family loves Glenn. He's a hard worker, but quiet and kind of homebody. I think poor communication and lack of excitement were her issues with him. She refuses to talk with me about the situation, so I am surmising based on what I know of them both. This was their first marriage, but ever since high school, Maddie had a long string of boyfriends. Most of them seemed to be nice guys. She had a few duds. But when Maddie's dad and I got to know them and became fond of them, she dumped them. So far I get Maddie's a slut and she dumps the guys right after introducing to the... Okay, whatever. I think Maddie is upset with me because I can't warm up to her newest guy. When she started cheating with him, he was also married. He's now divorced. He's a good bit older than she is. I don't picture the relationship lasting. I have met him a couple times and been friendly enough, but I haven't friended him on social media. She posts photos of them together, and I rarely like the photos because I don't like them. I hate what she's done. It really hurts me. How can I get past this? And how should I handle what I feel is pressure from her to accept this new guy? Standing by in Georgia. Yo. Okay, so I read this a week ago, and fucking Abby has no chill. I love Abby's response to this. Okay. Dear Standing By, your first priority should be to create as stable an environment for your grandchild as possible. There have been problems in Maddie and Glenn's marriage that you weren't privy to. Be cordial to the new man in your daughter's life. And in the future, stop allowing yourself to become as emotionally invested with the men she dates as you have in the past. From your description of Maddie's pattern, there may be more on the horizon. Yo, Abby's like, from your description of your hoe-ass daughter, there might be more guys in the future. There may be more on the horizon. She pretty much said, your daughter's a hoe. This new guy, he ain't gonna be the last, all right? I'm just gonna read some comments because I fuck with comments. I like some of this bullshit. Okay, oh mother, please don't get involved. If you absolutely must, though, the answer has been staring at you directly in the face this whole time. You want to run this guy off? Then tell her how much you love him. In your own words, when Maddie's dad and I got to know them and became fond of them, she dumped them. Become fond of him. All right, whatever. Next. Okay, so should I do another Dear Abby? Or should I go to Misconnections? Because I got a couple that I thought were funny. Okay, oh, fuck. This posting has been flagged for removal. Damn, all of my misconnections are deleted. Okay, here you go. Classy office woman on the E-train, Midtown West. Looking for the woman riding the E-train this morning that caught my eye. You were well dressed, like you worked in an office. Heels, makeup, and tan tights. Hoping you reply. I would love to connect. This is what I think about this post. I think he's just generalizing what an office woman looks like and just hoping for anybody to respond back. Because he put heels, makeup, and tan tights. I feel like that could be anybody. Okay. You smiled but still left. Long Island City. I was coming up to the 21st Street Queensbridge escalator and you and your, I assume, boyfriend were just getting on it. I said, damn, kind of loud, and you turned back and I winked and you smiled. You are a pretty white woman, and I am that dark chocolate you secretly have been craving. Again, I'm assuming. LOL. I hope you see this. You had on black Spanx and a black or blue hoodie. I 3 will be at the train station again tomorrow to head to work. Okay, you smiled but still left. I mean, homeboy, she was with another guy, okay? You think she's gonna dump the guy she's with just because you said damn and winked at her, and then she's gonna be like, you know what? Sorry, baby, I'm gonna leave you because I wanna see what this guy who just said damn to me. I wanna see what the deal is with this one. All right, well, those misconnections were kind of a letdown. All right, let's do another Dear Abby. Okay, woman's frank sexual talk creates doubts for fiancé. Dear Abby, I am a 50-year-old man who has been divorced twice. The last one was 2 years and 8 months ago. Last year I met a wonderful woman and we have been dating and building a beautiful relationship together. A month ago I proposed to her and she accepted. Everything is going great, but I am intimidated by all the men she had been with prior to us. She had a lot of toxic relationships and was sexually active with a lot of different men. When we have sex, she tells me I'm not assertive enough and she wants me to be more aggressive. It makes me feel like she isn't happy with me sexually, and she will sooner or later look outside our relationship. Am I right to feel this way? I don't want to be in a relationship that will end because of our sex life. What should I do? Feeling inadequate in Utah. Feeling inadequate. Good sex has everything to do with open communication between the partners. Your lady friend's past isn't a problem unless you make it one. She is trying to tell you what she needs from you. If you are not clear on what that means, ask her to elaborate. If it's not to your liking, be honest, but do not advance this relationship further until you get this worked out. Okay. Let me tell you something, feeling inadequate in Utah. She wants you to choke her, okay? And call her a dirty slut. Maybe you don't have to physically degrade her or verbally degrade her, but just maybe pull her hair a little bit, okay? Okay, I want to read the comments for this one. All right. This was 3 days ago. You've been divorced twice. Oh, and this is from this girl. You've been divorced twice. The last one was less than 3 years ago. You just met this woman last year and you're already engaged to her. Slow down, Ross. Why are you in such a rush to get married again? I highly doubt it's because you want kids. No one should get married when they have clear compatibility issues. If you have a wedding date, postpone it. I think you two need to see a sex therapist or a relationship counselor. Stop being in such a rush to get married again. Yo, why do men fucking rush to get married? Why do you rush? What's the big fucking rush? What do you win for the race? I say this because I was engaged a long time ago. And at this time, I was going to Hunter. I was in school. I was working on my bachelor's. And I was in a lot of stress. And I had mentioned that I did not want to get married before I was 30. I didn't want to get married before I finished school. I wanted to get my shit done, prioritize myself. And it's like this fucking guy was like just in the fucking rush. And I'll get into this story another time. But someone said he needs to see a therapist for himself to figure out why he's so scared of being alone. Damn. And why he's a soft, passive lover. Yucky. Wow, did not think about that. A sex therapist. Perfect. Going to see a marriage counselor or just going to see a therapist before you make these big moves. I think it's definitely a must. It's mandatory. Man, I should have. If I would have just listened to myself, we wouldn't have been together for as long as we were. Someone said maybe give the marrying thing a rest. Damn. That's it for me. I have to get ready for work. I get these notifications on my phone like an hour before I go in. It's like, hey, your shift starts in an hour. I'm like, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Like I didn't know I had to go to work. Thanks. And so I hope everybody has a great Easter weekend, Easter week. I hope you eat all the Easter food, Easter goodies, Easter candy. I'm going to finish up these Girl Scout cookies. I know this wasn't really a funny episode, but I couldn't help but to put on these bunny ears. New exciting things are hatching and things are blooming. And next thing you know, the weather's going to be really nice and warm. And pretty soon you won't need that winter coat anymore. Hopefully this episode wasn't too boring. But until next time. Bye.
Hey yo. Hey yo.